The beginning of the NFL's offseason acquisition period is nearly upon us. The 2025 Scouting Combine will commence at the end of February, and then the week of March 10th marks the beginning of free agency. From there, the Tennessee Titans are out of the gates and off to the races to fix their team. But the three biggest holes the Titans are desperate to fill present a numbers problem. They only have two top 100 picks in the draft. Thanks to their 2024 trade for L'Jarius Sneed, the Chiefs own the 66th overall pick. Every time I bring up Sneed with Titans brass, there isn't a hint of regret or worry in their voice. They all remain pleased, patient, and confident that he's going to work out for them. 2025 is going to put that notion to the test, but regardless of whether Sneed becomes a big contributor for Tennessee or not, they remain in desperate need of a starting quarterback, right tackle, and edge rusher. Now, President Chad Brinker and GM Mike Borgonzi have made it crystal clear they want to be a draft and develop team. That's the right way to build a sustainably competitive team, but in the short term, they're potentially going to have to address at least one premium position outside of the draft. If you're part of the Tennessee faithful, you know just how many years the Titans have shaved off your life with the emotional roller coaster of sports. Or maybe the roller coaster of life is messing with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals. The new year is a blank space for you to write a new story. BetterHelp makes it easier to get started. They are our incredible sponsor for this video. Regardless, if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human going through a hard time, therapy can give you the tools you need to approach your life in a very different way. That's where our sponsor, BetterHelp, comes into play. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost if it's not the right fit. BetterHelp's platform makes finding a therapist easier because it's online and remote. BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. Plus, with our link, you get 10% off your first month. Start fresh any day of the year with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/ATOZsports and get 10% off your first month of therapy with BetterHelp. Finding a top free agent is the simplest and most likely way the Titans will go about this situation. But what's interesting is how they're either going to have to leave fans underwhelmed or bend their own rules in order to make it happen. Another thing Brinker and Borgonzi have said over and over is that they want to use free agency to supplement their roster, not to build it. That's a fundamental tenet of their philosophy, but it's also no doubt a reaction in some capacity to the way last year went for the Titans. There's been a lot of revisionist history on the league-leading free agency spending spree that Rand Carthon and company went on 1 year ago. But the bottom line is that it didn't lead to more wins. The collective crash everybody is feeling after that sugar rush last year is going to be on the minds of the front office this time around. Now, there is a healthy crop of free agent options available to make the top of the Titans draft less difficult. This is especially true of offensive tackle, where there's an unusual number of satisfactory starting options. Ronnie Staley in Baltimore is the headliner of this group, coming off of a big bounce-back season. There's also Garrett Bowles in Denver, Cam Robinson in Minnesota, and Walker Little in Jacksonville, just to name a few. Edge is a lot like quarterback in the sense that truly elite options never hit free agency. It's a position every team tries extremely hard to address through the draft exclusively, if at all possible. It's just hard to get good bang for your buck on the veteran market. That being said, there are a couple nice options that will cost a pretty penny. Josh Sweat made himself big money on the Eagles' Super Bowl run. Hassan Reddick in New York has the talent on paper, but is a mess of a contract situation off the field. Khalil Mack still has some juice, but the Chargers don't seem interested in spending big money to retain him. So should the Titans? And finally, everybody knows the deal at quarterback at this point. It's Sam Darnold and everybody else. You can listen to a lot more about the Titans' preferences at quarterback in the video linked below. Darnold is somebody they're open to, but only if the price is right. So who's it going to be? Or perhaps the better question, are the Titans and their new team-building philosophy actually willing to shell out for a big swing on one of the top guys? Perhaps this is a necessary evil they decide they need to bend their own rules for in order to make happen. But if they're unwilling to budge, what's the plan then? Well, they could also make a splashy trade for a starter, but talk about going against your own principles. The other thing Brinker and Borgonzi have been steadfast on, Brinker since last season and Borgonzi since the moment he got here, is that they want 12 picks in the top 100 over the next 3 cycles, if at all possible. Trading away picks for starters isn't the way to do that. But again, maybe they see no other way. There are some intriguing situations out there that they're probably going to at least kick the tires on. At quarterback, all eyes have been on Matthew Stafford in LA and Derek Carr in New Orleans. Both are in uncertain situations currently and could become available in the next couple of weeks. At edge, a couple huge names are at least being floated out there. Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, and Trey Hendrickson all appear to potentially be on the trading block, but teams just don't move on from star edge rushers in their prime. I'd be surprised if these guys go anywhere, particularly the first two. Maybe a tier down, somebody like Cincinnati's Sam Hubbard is on the move. But would somebody in that tier really satisfy you to the point of not adding another guy until day 3 of the draft? And at offensive tackle, it's a story of retread and rehab guys. Now, maybe Bill Callahan wants to try his luck as the legendary offensive tackle coach that he is to redeem somebody. Tennessee could move for former first-round pick Evan Neal in New York or former first-round pick Trevor Penning in New Orleans, if that's how they feel. But again, it seems unlikely the Titans make one of their first moves of this new regime a trade that goes against their stated philosophy. And even if they did, how do you actually solve this numbers problem with a trade? You can't move your first or second round pick without defeating the point, right? So are you finding a starting tackle or edge with a 4th round pick in a trade? Maybe you send a future day 2 pick instead. It's all messy, and none of it seems to make much sense. Now, the final way they could choose to go about this is to trade their way into 3 top 100 picks. The most likely way they'd do this is by trading the first overall pick. If they decide they'd rather trade down from 1, which is a very real possibility, it would almost certainly entail at least 1 additional top 100 pick. This would give you 3 swings that you want, but are they the 3 swings that you need? Moving down from 1 almost certainly means you won't get your first crack at quarterback. And there are only 2 quarterbacks the Titans are interested in this class. So unless you move down to 3 or maybe 4 overall, it seems unlikely you get your guy. Clearly, there isn't a perfect way to slice this. At least it isn't obvious on the surface. How the Titans choose to address this situation will be telling, and it's likely to be the defining element of their entire offseason. For A to Z Sports Nashville, I'm Easton Freeze.